Let's take you back to Houston, where, as I've been saying, the funeral for George Floyd is getting underway. That is the scene in the Fountain of Praise Church there, which is just on the edge of Houston, the hometown of 46-year-old George Floyd, who was killed 2 weeks ago in Minneapolis by a white police officer. Well, France 24's Kethevane Gorjestani is just outside the Fountain of Praise Church there in Houston and joins us now. Kethevane, just tell us a bit more about how we can expect today's proceedings to unfold.
Well, this funeral service is, of course, a private one, but a lot of very big figures are guests at this funeral service that is expected to last about 2 hours. There are local officials, two Democratic congressmen and women from Texas who are here. We saw also the police chief of the Houston Police Department, Art Acevedo, who arrived a little bit earlier. There was Bishop Dixon, also a huge figure here in Texas for the African-American community. You mentioned Al Sharpton, of course, Reverend Al Sharpton, who will be giving that eulogy. But there are also artists and athletes like Floyd Mayweather, who is expected also to speak. He has financed some of the ceremonies that we've been seeing so far for George Floyd. There will also be artists like Slim Thug. So all of these people are going to talk about George Floyd, about what he has come to mean for the United States, and of course show their support for the family in these tough times. Because while the United States is, of course, really watching what is going on here at the Fountain of Praise Church, they also don't forget. That's what the family's lawyer told me yesterday, Benjamin Crump. He said that for us, it is something bigger than just George Floyd, but for the family, they've just lost someone they loved, and we have to also respect that. After this funeral service, George Floyd's coffin will be escorted by the police to the cemetery, and then the final mile of that procession will take place, is expected to take place on a horse-drawn carriage to take him in the cemetery where he will be buried besides his mother.
Okay, so a lot of high-profile people there, as you say. And do you get the impression from talking to people, and you've been covering this story, you know, really the last 2 weeks and 1 day, do you get the impression that these events mark a real turning point for the United States, Kethevane?
Well, most of the people I've spoken to over the past couple of weeks, whether they were simply protesters or more high-profile people like attorney Ben Crump, who spoke to me yesterday, and he was saying that he did see a difference in this case and what it had done to U.S. society. He said that George Floyd's case seemed to be like a tipping point, a point where things are finally going to change. He compared the case of George Floyd to that of Eric Gardner. He was the first man to be filmed saying, "I can't breathe," at the hands of white police, and died at the hand of white police. But he said that unlike Eric Gardner, where the police officers weren't fired, weren't arrested, weren't charged, in this case, we saw those police officers very quickly get fired and then slowly get charged. But he said that the ultimate justice and the ultimate proof that things will have changed will be when they are actually convicted. And he said that he was very confident that this time they would be convicted. Now, there's also a lot of talk about what this is changing in U.S. society in general and across police departments in the U.S. And we've seen small steps, but steps nonetheless. Some cities banning chokeholds, some cities deciding to review the way police interact with their communities, especially people of color. So protesters that I spoke to have been saying that, yes, we see something different this time. These are small steps, but these are steps in the right direction. But we can't let go. We need to continue pushing, because if we give up now, this is just going to be the same over and over again. So we need to keep pushing so that these small steps become really incremental changes in U.S. society.
Okay, Kethevane Gorjestani there in Houston. Thank you very much indeed. We'll be checking in with you, no doubt, in the next hour or so.